And I just have a follow-up question regarding to that, because in the US, there's so many different media platforms, and they all have they have different views, and they definitely are biased. How do you kind of find the most unbiased source of your news?
I was reading a history book about this recently and talking about it last night with a friend of mine, which is that when the radio was first invented and there was the awareness that ideas could be broadcast across the entire country in a one-way direction, this changed some of the foundational commitments of the democratic institutions that had existed previously. So the vision of democracy was that you would have people meeting together in town halls and local communities, talking stuff out, and meeting in a courthouse, let's say, and sharing their ideas and figuring out what to think about this or that, and they read the newspapers and so forth. But you could push back. Somebody could say something, and then you say something in response. The issue about the radio is that there's just ideas come at you, and so there was a very serious concern among the early regulators of the radio that's a dangerous tool, because that's also the tool that can easily promote propaganda, that can promote an extremely biased perspective. If the government is the only one that runs the radio, for example, they'll just say only nice government things and not even host other views. So there's this central idea was that anything that discusses something of political value has got to have equal time given to the most serious of the competing views. So it's not all just that you have Republicans and Democrats and that's the extent of the debate. There might be other views as well. But the thought is, if it's a respectable view and there's a serious disagreement, then the best representation of each of those views has to be shared so that people can think about it and make up their minds. It was a central commitment to shaping the information environment so that people could make reasoned decisions, deliberate, and so forth, and have something like that town hall experience, but on the national stage. Then TV came along, and there was the same concern. There used to be an equal time rule, which was, at least in the main broadcasting networks, there were only 3 networks where you could watch the news. And also, you couldn't really flip the channel. There wasn't a remote control. This is the invention of the remote control is very interesting, because it seems like it's a mundane device that you just hold in your hand, but actually it's transformative for how people make sense of their information. Because if you're watching a news program and the news program is required to show me 2 different sets of ideas at least, and I have to sit there and watch, and if I want to change the channel, I have to get out of my chair and walk across the room and flip it with my hand, I'm probably too lazy to do that. So I'll sit here and I'll listen to 2 different ideas and I'll have a proper debate go on. But as soon as I can flip the channel, if I don't find what you're saying compelling in 2 seconds, I just flip to the next channel and watch the next thing. And now that there's proliferation of channels, the next thing might be something that's apolitical. And so what happened with the invention of the remote control and the television, with a proliferation of channels and with the removal of the idea that you had to have any kind of balance, is that people, as soon as they don't like something, they flip to something else. Then the internet comes along, and there was this concern that it should be totally unregulated. And the thought was, that's really what we want. We don't want anybody regulating the internet, because that would restrict our freedom, that would restrict our free speech. In a way, that's not really right. You need to have some structure to a public square. Because especially now, if you add algorithms into it, where I'm only going to see one strand of the discourse, and then that's going to be exaggerated, I may not even know that there's another discourse. So you can imagine 2 people sitting in a coffee shop. You're over here on your laptop, and I'm here back when people sat in coffee shops. You're here on your laptop, I'm on my laptop. I'm reading my news, you're reading your news. We may have completely different representations of reality in our head, without even the thought that there might be a different way of understanding what's going on. And this now is a very different situation. This undermines the very possibility of having a reasoned discourse with other people, because I don't even know what you think, and I don't know the reasons why you think what you think. And I might even know that you think something other than what I think, because maybe I'm only talking to my friends and I'm only exposed to one point of view. So I think that although there's this maybe libertarian fantasy of just an unregulated speech environment, I actually think that with the sorts of platforms that are now ascendant, and that things like Twitter and Facebook have effectively become the public square, whether it's through government regulation or voluntary regulation of the websites, or some independent panel that gets put together with bipartisan or multi-partisan support, there actually has got to be some place that all of us know we can go, where people who hold different ideological preconceptions have agreed on a set of ground rules for how we can have a productive debate that allows different useful voices to contribute, and that in some way filters out some of the nonsense and the bullshit. I mean, bullshit here is a technical term, which is, it refers to people or to expressions that are not even concerned with the truth. That it's not necessarily that they're lying. We're used to people lying. But bullshit is, you don't even care what's true. You're just sort of saying something to support your side, or you're saying something because it's funny, or you're saying something because it's helping you get some emotions off your chest. But there has got to be an institution, a public sphere that's reasonably well regulated, that's concerned ultimately with what do we have evidence to believe, what are the leading ideas that have some support behind them, and how can we let those ideas actually compete in something like a marketplace of ideas. Currently, we don't have anything like that, to my knowledge.